Hey there, I'm Curly, and welcome to Unfiltered and Undiscovered, the podcast where three music lifers dig into the songs, the stories, and the legends of music that may not have crossed your radar yet. But if you're new here, let me set the scene. I'm the punter, the guy who swears that the best music, the best Australian independent music, was in 1986. I've got the record collection to prove it. Now, joining me each week, I've got Braggy. He's a lifelong muso, a dreamer that's still waiting for that one song of his to go viral. He knows his stuff and he loves digging into lyrics. And of course, we've got Rossy. Rossy, the roadie, the manager, and the guy with a story about every band that's ever plugged into a pub PA system anywhere from Perth to Parramatta. Together, we get unfiltered with the best undiscovered artists across Australia and occasionally the world. And occasionally, we also talk a whole lot of rubbish around artists that we already love. Let's get into it.
Hey y'all, I'm Alison Asarch from Nashville, Tennessee.
Hey, I'm Sean Fraser from the Ritzy Kids.
Hunters, this is Johnny from Rail Motor.
Hey, it's Shane from Blind Season.
Hey, it's Rob Stanier, and you can check out my music on all the streaming platforms.
Check out my latest music on all the streaming sites.
Check out my debut album on all streaming platforms.
Check out our new debut album.
Check us out on Spotify and Apple Music. And you're listening to our friends, Braggy and Curly.
And my
Rossy.
favorite bands from Australia.
My two favourite podcasters,
Braggy and Curly.
Braggy and
Rossy.
Curly.
On the
Unfiltered and Undiscovered podcast.
And Rossy.
So, hey there, everyone. It's Curly here, and welcome to episode 204 of the Unfiltered and Undiscovered podcast. We are three old blokes with one obsession, and that's music that matters. So, we welcome back Rossy. He got out of the penal colony of Norfolk Island. Welcome back, Rossy. We seriously have missed you. And Braggy, how's the internet this week? So let's start with Rossy first. How was Norfolk Island?
Norfolk Island is 5 kilometres by 3 kilometres. There's 2,000 people in it. And I kid you not, I reckon Shona and I were two of the youngest people on the island.
Wow.
They were very nice. It was interesting. I went snorkeling for the first time in my life.
Oh, wow.
And I did some underwater shooting, of course, as you'd expect, to prove that I did it.
Cool.
Yeah,
And I saw you got to meet a relative of Fletcher Christian.
That's right. Yeah. She is a Christian. She's like 8th generation Norfolk Island, which means she's got some Tahitian in her. All the original pit cannons have got Tahitian on them because there was like a whole bunch of English blokes on a boat who landed and they've gone to Tahiti. Then they left and went, fuck that, we're going back and let's get some chicks. So they threw the captain overboard, went back, got some girls and fucked off to the Pitcairn Islands.
Sounds like a very Australian story.
No one tells history like Rossy. So, Braggy, how you been, mate? How's the internet? How's the red legs?
Internet's good. Red legs no good. We lost on the weekend to frickin' Glenelg. It could have been worse. We could have lost to Sturt. But we did well to get as far as we did. We needed to win 3 games in a row just to make the finals, and then we won the first 2 lots of the finals, but we just couldn't carry on. And you know what? We had a freaking kick right in front, 40 out to win it with like no time left hardly on the clock. And we missed it anyway. Doesn't matter.
You know how I hate teams with palindromic names.
You hate Glenelg, yeah. What other team has got a palindromic name?
Whoever it is, I hate them.
So I'm on the Lions now.
Okay, and so you should be. So, and footy tipping, we saw a bit of a double point scenario with the finals.
Well, you got everyone right, Curly, except for the Roosters, which I did say you should never back.
He did say that repeatedly.
But I did back him as well. So
okay. All right. And of course we're welcoming to the show. You may remember this gentleman. We spoke about him at least on episode 191 with Katie Brooke. We loved the concept of Katie Brooke's band, and just to refresh memories, we had Rusty Crook,
band names in the way.
Sonic Edwards, and Thor
Phillips,
who we called Thor the Viking. So, and and of course Paul the drummer. So
boring name.
I remember them being the coolest band members' names I've ever heard.
Yeah, I think so too.
Except maybe, I don't know, Turnbuckles.
So how are you, Thor? Welcome to the show.
I'm very good. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's Paul. He may have the least exciting name, but he definitely makes up for it in playing. Yeah.
Yes. I've seen a couple of clips. He's very good.
Good
Thor,
band, actually, overall, it's a killer band.
the boys usually get me to ask the first question, and I always like to start with finding out when music first raised its head for you. When you the earliest memory you have of listening to something and thinking, "This is what I want to do."
Yeah, it would definitely be back Simon 83 model, and when I was 4 years old, I remember it's the Hey Hey It's Saturday and the midday show, but Hey Hey It's Saturday in particular, I remember seeing, there was a Saturday night thing, obviously, and and then I remember I got a photo somewhere of me with a ukulele with no strings, and I used to go and sit in front of the telly and watch whoever was playing, and I think obviously back then it was a really good cohort of players. I remember a lot of Tommy Emmanuel and bands like that on shows like that. And of course, you had the midday show. You had these shows that were a lot of live music, and that was something I really remember before I then went on to. But I always loved music. Mum played a little bit of guitar, and my grandfather was a musician. Sort of back then, no one, like in my family, no one was ever full-time musician, but so it was kind of in the background there. Like my grandfather, he was a church musician, and he could play, and also played in big bands. So he never played strings, but he was a piano, saxophone, clarinet sort of guy. So yeah, that's my earliest memory that is that Saturday night, Hey Hey It's Saturday, watching bands and playing along with a ukulele with no strings.
There was a kick-ass band they had.
You're playing as much as the guys on the show were. It was often off their dials and miming, right?
I think the band played though, didn't it, Rossy? The band would have
not
played.
Always. Often, sometimes not. Sometimes not.
Yeah, I think it's been one of those issues for different things, for different bands. Like I've fortunate enough to work with older guys now that were in that scenario, and yeah, you hear stories of some of them they didn't want them to play, and they put their foot down or not. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. So you haven't had music out for a while. Is there new stuff coming, or
there is new stuff coming? It's just that we had, well, obviously COVID. Going into COVID we were about to hit the road, hit everything full time, and the studio was fantastic, and everything was looking great. And of course, as that unfolded, it sort of all fell apart. And I've got 3 kids and all those obligations, and the unknowing of what was happening after the first year, and seeing the damage to hospitality and things like that, I went back into trades, and so that we'd actually already started recording what was going to be the next album then, and just shelved it all, and then. Fast forward, we started playing those songs live. But another thing about that period of time, we were starting to change the sets all over to slide guitar, both round neck and lap steel and dobro, and sort of really focusing on changing things for that. And then, again, it all changed. And so we started to get invited back out once the COVID thing started to be more manageable, getting the odd job here and there. And then that sort of, it took a while, but started to pull us out of retirement. Well, not retirement, but enforced retirement. And then all those songs were still there. We started recording them, but then here we are now. Again, that was a slow build, and now we're in a situation where, in my musical work life, it's sort of returned to back to normal. So pre-COVID sort of feels, and better because we've still got more runs on the board now. So. And then the Dobro thing, anyone that's been through the COVID thing as an artist, it's a roller coaster of many different things. And so I left my Dobro. I got my Dobro upgraded and left it in the shop for a year. I didn't even pick it up. I paid for it online, and because you had this sort of emotional sort of, it's not a thing, music, and I think in society, you brought up being told, music's not music and entertainment is not really a career or a job, and it's disappointing. It's sad, and I think the reality is that like anything, if you're willing to put the sacrifice in, you can get something in return. And anyway, I guess so. Where I was going with that is we're back. I've got songs. Probably going to try and give them to other people to work with if they'd like to, and just rewrite a whole lot of new stuff for the Dobro. I've been releasing like videos and bits and pieces on the Dobro, and also my guitars and things, and getting requests for like, where can people hear it, and that's where the Patreon came about. So at the moment I'm releasing instrumentals every week on the Patreon for that membership. And that's the sort of the new music there. And then there's a couple of songs that I will keep from the previous lot, but there's now we're sort of things have also morphed too, from sort of country rock and what a bit more like what was on my last album to really embracing that love for Dobro and spending the time and the money. People don't often understand how to play an acoustic instrument live, like especially when you're with a band, like on the Give Me Mustard, there's a lot of investment to get that instrument to be able to jump up on stage and plug and play. So we've done all that. Now we can just focus on those things that we love. So I think we move towards some of the bluegrass tunes that I've written and the folk side of things, and those rock tunes that were suitable in that period of my life, not really suit the sort of person and also the audience that I want to get in front of.
But I guess with maturity comes a little bit of that transition away from wanting to be a dirty rock and roller, right? I see from like reading your CV and stuff that like you've got a Fishman endorsement, and like I can see behind you got 6, you got 8, you got 4, you got another 6, you've got acoustic instruments all around you, the Dobro and all that sort of stuff. So like that rootsy sort of country blues stuff is with the country tinge. Is that really where you're heading now? And is that is that what you'd listen to on a daily basis? Is that where you like it?
Well, I love music, and that's the cool thing. Like if you go back and look at some of the records, so I've worked into the role of a producer over the years too, and worked with bands like Collins Class and then a heap of grunge bands when I was up in the Gold Coast hinterland. Out of Brisbane and stuff, and so I love all types of music. But personally, on a daily basis, I'll be actually at the moment I'm listening to or whatever the bands I'm working for send me. So I've got. I know
that. That's the way.
It's about a project, right?
Yeah, but luckily I'm in that position that I only choose you're not going to stick a Dobro in a metal band. So I've got really good bluegrass sort of unique band called Hillbilly Skank. That I work with on Dobro, so I'm learning all their songs, and that's it's mostly sort of bluegrassy covers type things. And then of course I got Katie's stuff, which is it's fantastic. So and with Katie's band, like when we have enough essentially budget to have 5 of us, I'm on Dobro, and that's been happening a lot. And of course when it's duo and trio, I'm on Dobro. But when travel and time and money puts us in a situation where Rusty's, he's in Tamworth, so it's like, for example, this weekend I'm on electric guitar again, and it's a lot of fun. So it's interesting though, because you go from playing Dobro to electric lead, and it's fine, the songs, but you need to it's not the same thing.
Do you have a favourite, Thor? Do you have a favourite? Because I saw you playing mandolin. I saw you on. I was stalking you on the socials today.
That's what he does.
And I see you play. That's what I do, and you play drums as well. I see. So
look, my favourite. Do
you have a favourite?
I love drums. Is such a fun instrument, and I wouldn't say I'm all that good at it. I did put the work in over the years, and I've played Gold Coast. What is it? The Broad Beach Blues Fest. Over the closing. So I got to A level, which was useful, but I'm not. Dobro would have to be my favourite. I wish I'd done those things about investing. We did little investments along the way to get us on. I played it. Things like Woodford and that with Adam James way back. But, now that it's probably Dobro. And then slide, I got my lap steel as well.
I love lap steel. I love it.
Sorry.
I love the lap steel.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, great. Yeah, those instruments without frets, just there's something expressive about it. And the Dobro, the Resonator, the way it just punches you in the face, like it's just, but also, it can be subtle and emotive. It's I'd have to say if I had to pick one, it would just be the Dobro. Yeah.
Okay.
A Resonator is a really interesting instrument, though. I remember I was working for a guitar place, and all these a whole pallet load of Gretsch resonators came in. You just get them out and you'd hit them and just go, fucking here we go. And the things are so loud.
Yeah.
Like they just go bang. And it's like, but no two are alike either, right? You got to find the right one for you.
That's right, and you've got to put the time in there. They're pretty mechanical, in the way that they work, and
agricultural almost.
Yeah, well, look, the different stories that float around is that they were designed to compete with brass way back in the 20s and those sort of I guess ragtime and blues situations, but they're really cool, and like it's funny, you take for granted, especially if you've been around music, you would have all seen the Resonator before, but I've had it on stage before, and you have some people of all ages just looking at it going, what's that? And for years when people were in dire straits, obviously they're still popular, but back when they were, fresher, when that album cover had the silver Resonator on it.
The metal one. Have you got a metal one, Thor?
Not at the moment. I've had that. When COVID came through and we basically cleared the floor and I wouldn't say they're tools anymore, but back then I approached them as tools and therefore could part with them. Except now I try to get my wife to buy me a guitar because then I know I won't sell it. If your wife buys your guitar, you're not going to sell it.
That's right. I actually, COVID did me the other way. I ended up with a house full of guitars. It was awful because I was working from home, so I was still working and I was not going out doing anything. So I'm just like going, oh, gee, I like that. Boop. Next thing you know, turn up at the front door, and my missus would go,
"How'd that get here?
How long have you had that for?" I said, "Oh, I don't know."
See, I make sure I name all mine, and that way they become part of the family. So, we can't get rid of Wendy. Can't get rid of Wendy.
What's that line? When I die, I hope my wife doesn't sell my guitars for what I told her I paid for them.
So, quick question about how. Having the Dobro and, I'm just a punter. I'm not sitting here thinking of how you would arrange a song. So when you're writing a song and getting the concept around the arrangement or how it's going to be recorded, is putting the Dobro front and center like part of that process, or do you fit it in around the rhythm or the riff or whatever?
Yeah. Dobro, and this is, I love, as much as I love being my own artist, I really love being a sideman, and I've done that a lot. And the good thing about the Dobro is it's a great accompaniment to artists, in the genres that we're sort of focusing on.
Yeah. And
so to answer your question, I guess the title track off the last album, Higher Ground, it's a story I tell because it's funny, but the other thing too, it's a loud instrument. So when you got a family full of kids that are asleep and like a house full of kids that are asleep, I go to the laundry and back then when I wrote Higher Ground, it was after a gig that we did a great gig the night before, and the kids are all sleeping, and I took it out in the paddock because we're in the rural area, and it was hot, so I'm standing there basically in my boxer shorts, and I wrote Higher Ground. So. That actually, the riff just comes to you. I was thinking that the Higher Ground is really about like, you need to make those, you need to climb those higher hills to see the view, that type of that thing. And I was picturing a place in Dorrigo where I have been, and I used to walk, and it just sort of comes to you, And so that one was actually the lead. That's the basis of the song, that intro riff, and that. So in that instance, it was written around the Dobro, and then the rest. Generally, it's an accompaniment, or in a solo, or you might add it into a solo. That was back then. Now, it's a combination. You'll have some guitars that you write on, some songs you write on an acoustic guitar, and then you'll add the Dobro in because it's. But when you're writing it on the acoustic, the Dobro is going to find a good spot there, and then this also it's basically writing from scratch on Dobro and then building accompaniments around that. So now it's a combination of both, but initially it was really it's more an accompanying instrument, but now we're trying to showcase it and obviously there's a couple of main players that have set the field in that thing, like Jerry Douglas and Andy Hall and guys like that. So it's similar sort of thing. You've got instrumentals basically, and then you work around that.
Do you think as a producer that an instrument like a Dobro, because people playing traditional instruments, electric guitar, a bit of bass, drums, maybe piano, the Dobro actually does find its own place because it's got a unique sound that doesn't sound like those other instruments. It can actually poke out in its own space in the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as it does, but as long as you got the common sense. So I mean, if you find a pocket for it, 100%, it does pop out in the mix. You just got to stay out of the register of things like vocals and
which it does really, doesn't it? It's register stand. You know what I associate it with, and it's going to sound funny, but I associate it with harmonica. It's got that same, I don't know, same tonal standout. Does that make sense? It's just that mid-range sort of. It does stand out in the mix.
Yeah, same with harmonica. Yeah, you're right. Harmonica and violin, they just sort of punch through. They're not taking up. I mean, they don't go. I was looking at it the other day on the EQ in the studio. It doesn't go super low. Like it doesn't go very low. Yeah.
Whereas the pedal steel's a whole different. I mean, I just freaking love pedal steel. To me, it's one of the most magical instruments.
Yeah.
I'll play music sometimes in here, and I'll have just my family or other people who aren't really musos. They don't. I have to point it out to them. I say, "Can you hear that? You hear the pedal steel? Hear what it's doing?" It's like, "Oh, is that what that?" You know what I mean? It's a different beast.
I love a pedal. I love a lap too. I like
the lap. Yeah, I saw you got the lap as well, Thor.
Yeah, I got a lap still there. I got a awesome one from the guys at was it Pro Music Australia look after me, and it's really good. The thing I like over that over the pedal steel is that little bit of grunginess that you can bring, and it's sort of I went with that one because you can kind of get some electric guitar sounds, but if you want to do the crying cowboy thing, you can and
crying cowboy.
Yeah. I mean that in a positive way. It kind of sounds negative, but yeah, that's the sound.
No. I know exactly what you mean, though. I know what you mean. It's onomatopoeic almost.
Yeah, the wailing guitars, that.
Yeah, that's right. So, and especially with the volume pedal, just swell it up. It's just a lot of fun, and but like violin, it's unforgiving, and you can hear there's no frets, so
Yeah.
Intonation is key.
You need to be on your game,
yeah.
So can I just?
Sorry.
No, you're right. I butted in. You keep going.
Oh, I was just. I'm not sure if I'm getting more picky as I get deeper down the rabbit hole, or I'm getting worse because I think you can pick up those intonation things more. That's how I feel anyway. It's either that or I'm getting worse, and it's just out of tune. But yeah.
Can I just say to you that I spent the day in a room and first thing this morning, I had a student orchestra of kids from year 1 to year 6, and there were 70 people on stage playing, and they were playing Sweet Georgia Brown. And I tell you what, it took about 16 to 32 bars for me to be able to pick it.
What instrument?
They were playing there was that 50, 60 kids on stage playing like flutes, saxes, basses, 2 bass players, a drummer, trumpets, everything. And I'm like on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Thor, I've got to talk about your music on Spotify. You've got music from 2016, 2018. And the way it rolls through on Spotify from when I open it, it starts with Vigilante Blues. And mate, can I tell you, there is that real preacher outlaw feel around that song.
Yeah, thank you. It's one of our more requested songs, especially for people that see us live. Look, basically, that song's written about looking after your people. It's really also written about, when I wrote that, outlaw crime is a big problem. Gang crime is a big problem, and that's what was going through my mind. And that sort of mentality of people that just they prey on, they get a large group of people and prey on a small group of people, and Vigilante Blues is about just getting some control over that. Yeah.
Mm.
1, 2, 3, 4. Brother, come on in. You want whiskey or some wine? Lay your pistol on the table next to mine. Everybody's here, just waiting on old Bill. Flick your safety on if you will. There's a dark train rolling on the track. When my boys are done, it won't be rolling back. Yes, some evil will survive, not while I'm alive. There's a dark train rolling on the track.
I think a lot of your songs have got messages like High Ground, Jump into the Pool. Something else I noticed about that album, High Ground, is that there's a lot of water. We're jumping in the pool. Storm breaking, horse to water.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is I really like this. Like every song's got a message, but is the message you're sending out to people, or is it a message you're sending to yourself?
It's basically written about an experience and a feeling that's happened. Everything is about
life lived.
Yeah. It's life lived, yeah. And I never it's like I'm not really big on things like protest songs either. Like I'll write a song around my story, and if that resonates with someone else, that's great. But I'd never say, "Here's a message you should listen to." You know.
Yeah.
So it's never written.
That's what I thought.
Send a message.
Yeah.
If I jump into the pool is one of my. Yeah.
What's that about? Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, I thought you might like to hear that story. So when I was in the army for 4 years as an aircraft mechanic straight out of school. I didn't finish that trade. I wasn't where I was supposed to be. And I got out and I said I want to be around music, but I want to. Obviously, I'm not an established artist. I want to have a family. I want to make some money and things like that. And my grandfather had taught me electronics as a kid to a point, obviously. And then, and so, okay, I'm going to become an electronics technician in the entertainment industry. And that's what I did. But fast forward years later, I was working at a studio up in the Northern Rivers with a producer, and a really lovely guy, fantastic, a lot of experience. He was, he's about 15 years older than me, I suppose, and he was in that generation where he actually was on wages at a studio, and then had his own studio. So seen a lot of a world that no longer really exists for everyone to see. And so fantastic guy, I learned a lot. And so I would always ask, every time I go to a studio, I'd always ask for CDs because I was doing service calls to studios in the Northern Rivers and the Gold Coast and things, and fixing consoles and things, and we were fixing his console. And I said, "Can you give me some CDs of what you've done?" And they always would, and always listened to them, and I always liked them. And I said to him one day, I said, "This one is fantastic. You can really turn it up, and it doesn't hurt your ears." And he goes, "Yeah, man, you got to be able to jump into the pool." And I went, "That's a good one, And he's right. He said you got to be able to turn it up, and it's not going to, you immerse yourself in it. And
I get it.
So that's what that's about, yeah. And then it flows on to that whole, you only get out what you put in and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you how it is. You wanna start a fire, you gotta rub them sticks in. Look straight at the sky, but don't look at the sun. You can't shoot the bullet, can you clean the gun? I jump into the pool. Water's nice and warm. Jump into the pool. Won't do you any harm, no.
The other one that was interesting on there is, Rossy, is Storm is Breaking, which is some sort of mining thing going on there, or you?
Well, no, but close enough. I mean, it's that primary producers thing. So
okay.
Yeah. So I work a lot with a friend of mine, Jeff Palmer from Collins Class. So when I had a studio up on the Gold Coast, like I said, with the bands I was producing, I was doing work with Collins Class. So they're worth checking out, and I'd say worth having a chat to Jeff. He's a very interesting guy.
Okay.
And so where was that? So we were working together, I've recorded a couple of their albums. One of them was in their 100-year-old woolshed at his family farm in Weewar. And so when I was writing this song, I had this idea. So my on my dad's side, they had trucks and they had trawlers, you know. And, yeah. So, and then what happened there? And then I thought, well, Jeff, and so I went on. I had a break from music and that technical side in about 2014, and went off and dual trained as a diesel fitter and small engine mechanic. I just sort of felt
She's got some strings to you both, or
well, I think the term is polymath.
Just because you do it doesn't mean you're good at it. But you know,
I agree.
A lot of hours and a lot of try. You know, I just got to the stage in that repair game. I had a pretty good job for a production company, and just felt like I needed to get out and use my body. That was a big part of it. But I know I'm dancing around, but the story ties back in. So, you know, I worked in agricultural repairs, and that's what. And Jeff and I have that common ground as well. So he went back and runs the farm down there, and so I spoke to him and I started writing, you know, something about, you know, drop it in, you know, you drop your plow in and you drag it around and things like that. And I sent him some ideas, and then he helped tidy them up as well, because he has that. Like, I have some experience, you know, fixing these stuff, but he's out there every day using it.
Right.
And so Jeff Palmer put those together, and so basically it's really about those two things. You've got that. It's about that primary producer's problem. In the lyrics, you can hear all that sort of stuff, and in the chorus, you know, hook it up, drop it in, drag it around again. Well, that can be done with a fishing net, and it can be done with a plow and things like that. So that's what it's all about. Yeah.
Gotcha. Drop D blues. What's that all about? I keep hearing about this mythical drop D blue, and
that's about not much, to be honest. That one of the songs.
It's about the tuning, Curly.
Of the guitar.
I got to come up with the riff, and I come up with some pretty random words. I mean, the first verse is probably the best. It sort of goes downhill from there. But people used to request it the most, and I used to play a lot more blues than I've been growing up playing country and blues as much as each other, and except for in high school we played, you know, all the everything from Offspring to Nirvana and that. But so with Drop D Blues, people would just really love that blues stomp feel, and I was doing so many solo gigs, like a ton, and I just wanted to bring something extra, and I had a stomp box for a minute, and then I thought, oh, let's kick this up a notch. So I had a kick drum on my right foot, and I used to tape a brush to my left foot and have it positioned on top of a snare drum high enough to be able to get a good hit, and then I used to hit cymbals with my hands. And so things like Drop D Blues, especially up on the Gold Coast, where at the time there wasn't as much response to country. Now everyone's dressing up, and it's go time for line dancing and country covers. But back then it was, I got a good response out of the blues stuff. So Drop D Blues I've come up with the riff, did the song, and it just seemed to really, you know, some people say it's their favorite song. I was like, yeah, well, that's good. You know, it's we don't play it. We played it at the truck show because we knew they'd enjoy it, the crowd, but it's really not about much.
Horses for courses. But I guess it just seems like all the things you've done, like the concept of engineering or the mindset that you have, you apply to everything you do. Like, there's certain analytical skills that you take with you as you go from one thing to the other. You find that like you're not starting at ground one every time you do something new, right?
Yeah, I guess not. I guess so. You do just keep growing from experiences, and I think though, if someone had said to me years ago, said if you stay in music, in the entertainment industry, not just music, and hang in, and you know it'll work out. But I think there was always that voice in the back of your head when, I think I've squashed it now at my age. I think I've learned a bit more around this subject, but it's always been that voice in the back of your head saying, you know, it's not a real job. So just it's so easy. It's so easy just to go back and be a tech or whatever. So that was that. So you're not really starting. What I did know, and you're not really starting from scratch every time you sort of pull away from your audience for a little while and start again. But if you didn't stop, you know, look at where we were and where we are now, and you know, you can't hang on to that too much. But all I would say to anyone in that boat is just push on but you do what you got to do, and I guess that's just all about timing and that. But yeah, you do take different skills, and that was the other reason for some of those different things. I mean, like I wanted to learn how to be a sound engineer way back, and I had a friend who was doing sound for a venue on the Gold Coast that would get the good acts through at the time, and they needed someone to do monitors and that. And it was like, I think I'm not sure what the pay was, but it was terrible. And it was like a pick up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and drop you back at 2 or 3. And it was, but I finally got to mix people, and I finally got to learn more and set stuff up, and then every time you're in a band from then on, as those skills grow, you're just so much more valuable. Like I mean, it's just, I think it all over time it definitely adds up, and now it's you go to anywhere and you sort of know nothing's a surprise.
Doing monitors, you actually get to see a lot. You actually get to really learn a lot about how bands play and interact. You're standing there, and you can sit there and just pull up every channel on stage and listen to it raw and hear what they're doing. And like, I don't know, probably solo and kick drums against bass guitars and doing things. And it was like going, is that what they're doing? Well, that's shit, or fuck, that's great, Like, but you hear, and when you're a monitor guy, you can pick things apart in such a deconstructed way.
I always feel sorry for the monitor guy because he's the guy.
He'll be back. Keep going, Braggy.
I feel sorry for the monitor guy because obviously he's mixing the stuff that the musicians hear, and they're always calling for shit. And what about this? Turn this up. Whereas the front of house guy, he gets away scot-free.
He does get away with murder. You're right.
He's out the front. No one's questioning what it sounds like. I think, it's going to sound okay in front.
Actually, no. The front of house guy has to put up. The front of house guy has to put up with this girl who comes up and says, "Can you turn the bass player's vocal up?" And you go,
"Oh, you have to put up with the sonic advisors." Yeah.
I think the thing I learned. See, the thing I've learned since then. Like you're always learning, and that's the beauty of it. But I mean, some of the shows you go to now, they've got real monitors, like good monitors, and they're loud.
Yeah.
But the reality is, back then, you're being a monitor guy with rubbish. I remember using the particular PA provider was using JBL Eons, and I mean the ones that had the basket cast into the frame, And
I know.
And all I remember about being a monitor guy, so because I don't know how much you've read about my bio, but like I was lucky when I was a technician. I managed to work with some really older guys that had done a lot of things, and then I ended up playing guitar with John Swan and so I was exposed to that era. And one of the things that's great that John was lovely and quite relaxed when I met him, but all the stories I've ever been told about that generation is just like those monitor guys are in the firing line, and if they can't hear it, you just and so I'm using bad equipment and not much skill yet, just building my skill set. So it was always. Yeah, it was always. I was always pretty tense about
It can be. You're not sure who you're dealing with, right? She got 5.
Well,
what's the gag? It's like, what's the difference between a fallback guy and a toilet seat? Toilet seat only has to handle one arsehole at a time.
I was watching an interview yesterday with Steve Lukather and
Rick Beato.
I think. Sorry, thanks. And what I loved about him, he talked about gear going down on stage and stuff like that, and he did acknowledge that it happens and everyone's generally chill, but he said when it happens in the heat of battle, you might panic, you might be your emotions are not in control, and I sort of remember that it was good to see it from that from his interview, because he talks about how people now will just slander you online, and the reality would be, I guess, if you go you go off stage and say sorry, I got a bit whatever. But back then, you see all sorts of people getting upset, and I remember one keyboard guy, it's making a clicking noise, and we picked up actually the front of house engineer at the end of it was a mate of mine. We used to pull muscles putting the things together, putting the system together because we were laughing so hard because we were and but yeah, I remember this keyboard. Every time he hit his keys, he was hearing a creak. Well, they bring their own power boards, don't they? And it's like they've been behind the fridge for a million years. And my mate picked it up at the end of the gig, and it was brown. They just get so brittle. And he just hit it on something, and it went into a million pieces. But yeah, it's you never know what you're going to get. But I've noticed. I'm not sure if it's because we're playing better gigs. I think that's probably part of it. But everyone is a lot more professional now, and I'm not sure if that's across the board. But I don't know. It's just like we did the Gimpy muster, and we'd only in the pre-muster section, which is separate from the main 3 days, I think it is, and it was just amazing. And I've been around good rigs and stuff like that. It was just everyone, the professional, anyway, yeah.
I've always found that over the generations, the gear's got lighter and the crew have got smarter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Growing up playing in little country town playing rock and roll, I was just lucky to have a freaking monitors at all. So now if I go play somewhere and someone asks me, how's the monitor? I say, it's great. It's fine.
I turn up within ears these days. Like once you start working with ears, it's like the whole other world's changed,
I know, and that's something that I had to embrace with the Dobro, and I love it. But at the same time, I took my in-ear system to the muster, and they're like, well, don't you want to use our packs? And I'm, what do you mean you're supplying packs now? That's just like,
it's a whole other world. But the gear's better. I think the technicians are much better. And I also find that the young musicians are better. Because they can watch Rick Beato talk to Steve Lukather, and the stuff they're learning online is just like, if that was available 50 years ago, we would have loved it. But they're just learning from, like if you're a drummer, you can go and watch Bernard Purdy pull apart, deconstruct the shuffle for you. You're like, it is the resources available to young musicians, young technicians, or kids in all different spheres. And I admire how these young kids embrace it. And I see some young kids who are really super players, super players.
I think everyone out there, it's like it's there's so much there. It's sort of no excuse to not, like, if you're trying to progress. I mean, I was saying to my wife, because I've been practicing my ass off, because basically it's only been since March where I flicked the switch after joining Katie's band and seeing everything sort of come back together. I mean, I only picked the Dobro back up in March after 5 years off. And look, it's been great. It's been, obviously it's sort of make you feel like you're the person you're supposed to be and all this sort of stuff, which is great. But I realize when I look back at the sort of, like, I've played with some good acts in the past, and I think to myself, I thought I was doing okay then, but like, no way. Like, you've got to put in all that work, and all these kids that are, and not even kids, but everyone out there is on top of their game, and it's just, it's a lot. It's good, but the bar is high, and all that information. I mean, it's good. You just got to get into it and just put it in.
Thor, of all the things you do, which we've established now as a lot, so of like producing and doing your session work, and your tech stuff, and the songwriting, what gives you the most joy out of all those things?
Definitely performing with good artists and playing, like,
playing live.
Playing live, yeah, playing live. I'd say playing live in a good scenario, yeah.
Okay.
All the other stuff's good. I mean, I'd like to think there's a time where I'll come off the soldering iron, because, we all. I mean, at the same time, people come into the shop and ask me a question. I'm still talking to them 5 minutes later, and you go, obviously it does excite me as well, but. And producing is also up there with the live playing. Like, producing is something that you can do, obviously, either from a studio or from a home studio scenario, and there's a lot of special moments in that as well. So between playing live and producing, probably it's hard to split them. But if I had to pick one, I mean, playing live is, especially at the age I'm at now, I really want to just give that as hard a run as we can, and because.
And playing your own stuff more so?
No? I've lost. I mean, it's not as important in the same stream it was, but I'd like to. I've got great players. I feel like my chops are at a stage now. Like, I really want to put something together to do things like National Folk Festival, Woodford, things like that. That's where I see the Thor Phillips, band or project going, because like Jeff, I've got a few people that work with me, but like Jeff's a fantastic jazz drummer, as well as he's played in rock bands, he sings. So being able to we've got the musicality there. We just need to it's all down to me to get the music together and that sort of stuff. So that's where. So that obviously, and I'm still doing gigs under my own name, and we just did the Casino Truck Show, which is the biggest truck show in the Southern Hemisphere. And so we're still doing those sort of things, but I guess I'm lucky. I've got, and I think that's the thing that's kept me realizing I probably can make it all work. Is spent all this year building, all these years, setting things up, not even necessarily knowing or gaining skills and hoping it'll add up. And now it's like, well, I've got 3 bands I work for, or 2 bands plus my own project, plus the studio, plus repairs. It's great, We're doing a show this week supporting Christy Lamb up at the Gold Coast, and she's like, "Oh, is it all right if you play lead guitar? Because we're not going to have Dobro."
Would you mind? Would you mind being the focal point of half the gig, please?
It's like saying, "You want beer or beer?" I said, "They're both great." That's fantastic, So that's where I sort of reflected on that when it all happened. We had a laugh, and I was like, "That's some of the hard work paying off." So I do love playing with other people. It's rewarding, yeah.
But a guitar player who can turn up with his own soldering iron, you've won my heart.
Oh, yeah.
I could tell you a story, Rossy, that I've had, back when we had bad gear, and the thing people don't necessarily realize, it's one thing to use monitors, but you got to be able to listen to yourself. You got to listening is a thing. It might be really loud, but you got to listen for it. I had to solder up a cable for a guy once that basically was 3 XLRs in parallel because he was having so much trouble hearing himself. I had to daisy chain 3 of those Behringer monitor things together. That were just,
I do.
So that was because it was just getting to the stage. It was like, well, that speaker's running. Because also the theory behind it was, well, he's having trouble hearing it from one. If I spread it around him, it might help. And
immersive sound.
Yeah, he had his own 3.3. Yeah, 3. Yeah. But yeah, it definitely helps, and you definitely feel a bit more battle ready. So as if something happens when you're far away. Yeah.
Don't worry about bringing the soldering iron to fix the cables, Rossy. You can go out and fix your tractor as well.
Yeah, that's right. If you look, I toured with a guy who was a diesel mechanic, and it was the greatest experience of my life.
The bus is broken down.
The truck pulled over the side of the road.
That's what Les Claypool does. It's an interview with Les Claypool and Rick Biondo.
I just watched it. Yeah. He's a mechanic.
And I'm thinking to myself, I hope that's not me. No, I don't, because I think it's fine. I grew up with that whole especially so with the music thing, it was like, well, you got to have backup plans. But then that's not necessarily going to push you towards your goals. It might allow you to make money when things are harder, but there's that other side of it, which is burn the boats. So,
exactly. Well, someone was saying to me the other day that if you don't have a plan B, your plan A is really going to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that was interesting. I thought, maybe. but I was touring with this guy. He's a diesel mechanic, right? We're driving through Caloundra, up Queensland, right? And the truck, it had been floods, and we went over a causeway, and he just dropped a new motor in the truck, right? We've gone over the causeway, and it's just stopped. And he's gone, oh, fuck. He forgot to put the air filter back on. We've hit the causeway. It just sucked motor. And he said, it's fucked. And if he said it was fucked, we knew we were fucked. If it was me and some other blokes would go, maybe let's try this. Maybe this will work. This guy, and when we got the truck into Caloundra, a rod had gone through the side of the block.
That's fucked.
Yeah, it's never going again. Yeah. I think that broke him actually.
A couple of questions from my aspect. Yeah, because we do need to start winding this up, and you guys are going to talk bloody tech all day. So I need to. So big question: have you ever been to Nashville?
No.
Me neither. I've never been there either, Thor.
Well, would you like to go there, Thor?
Look, I would like to go there, but probably not for. I mean, I would like to go there. I was speaking to Rusty. He spent some time there, and it sounds really interesting. My wife over the years has said, "Oh, you should do an album in Nashville." I mean, we couldn't afford it, but it was just an idea because everyone, it's a thing. But there was part of me that's like, there's so many amazing producers. Like, if I wasn't going to produce my own, or there's so many amazing people here in our country that
you don't need to.
Don't need to, but I appreciate what they obviously. There's a thing over there, and it's quite exciting and that. But I also listen to so many podcasts and interviews where we learn that it's the side of I don't know. I mean, if I had a choice of that or going up to Canada and playing up there, I'd probably go to Canada.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Canada's weddings, parties, anything. Which I know Curly likes spend a lot of time in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so what's the connection there? So my the Marcus, the drummer from that band, he drums on Higher Ground and he lives just down the road. And
I know they went over and I think they played with the Tragically Hip a bit at first.
Yeah, and the band, they do a cover version of it. Is it The Lowest of the Low? They do Rosie and Grey, Weddings, Parties, Anything, do a cover of that. So, I don't know what the connection is, but Wedos are loved everywhere. So,
yeah, and I remember Marcus talking about that, and he's got some amazing stories. But and then he's an amazing drummer.
Yeah, Mick Thomas is just the type of guy you want to sit back and have a yarn with over a beer, because I reckon he could talk footy, cricket, music, Irish folk dancing, Australian history, whatever.
Yeah, especially like with the soldering on, Curly.
Yeah. Well, my next question is about Tamworth. So what's your relationship with Tamworth? Do you get there every January, or is that just
not every? But I've done a fair few. Yeah, I've gone to sometimes I've gone down to play for other people. Sometimes I've gone down and done like a couple of my own shows in one day, then get out of there to try and get costs down. One year we took a family, rented a house just out of town and did a handful of shows in Tamworth and surround. And so this year we'll be back with Katie Brooks' band and see who else will hire me. Because those festivals, we all know they're an expense. They're not the real money maker. So I want to go. We've got doing 2 shows with Katie, and that's going to be awesome. There's one at the Post Office Hotel on the Friday at the end of the festival, and then something on the Saturday. But there's a few other. I'll try and play with a few other people there, because not only for financial reasons. It's one thing about Tamworth. Have you all been?
Never.
Yeah, well, not to the. I've been to Tamworth, but not for the festival.
Yeah, not for the festival.
Well, it's a really good energy, especially when. I mean, I love going to see bands like The Flood, and just there's some amazing acts there, and then So I'll be there this year and do as much as we can. Yeah.
Well, if Katie gets the band onto the red carpet on the night of the Golden Guitars, one of you or the whole band has to look at the only invoice you get from this show is a request from us that you look at the camera and say, "Just want to do a shout out to the boys." That's it.
That's all.
Don't have to say who we are. We'll know. I got one more question. When I was stalking on the interwebs, Thor, I saw a little clip of you playing with your son. Your son was playing drums. That must bring you great joy.
Yeah, it does. And he's we never push them at all, because we're just like the stuff's there. I mean, like, they've all been around it their whole lives. It's been pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But he
goes all right.
Yeah, he goes all right, and he just and as soon as he applies himself, he goes great. We were in the shop.
That sounds like my grade 5 teacher.
Yes, Dad. Just apply yourself, son.
I said to him the other day, I said, I've got all these folk ballads I need you to learn. I know you won't like it, but it'll be work, And he's like, okay, cool, because he loves Blink-182 and stuff, which is great. It's fantastic drumming. Yeah. But playing with Jared's fun, and he's a real tough kid. Like, Battle Axe. We got booked. I was at my store by chance and this lady rang up. She had a cancellation. Had a party booked for her husband. She had a booking for 9 months, and someone cancelled that day, the day before. And I was like, well, I've got my son and I. We can do a cover band thing if you want. And she's like, fine. So how old's the person? Yeah, right. So we learn all these songs, and so he did like a 3-hour rehearsal, and we packed up and did a 3-hour show, and
That's great.
And we went to Dorigo and we had that booked in as our first gig, which was a blues gig. When they get to that age, he's 16, he's driving, on his L's, and I was crook as a dog, so he could get me through it. This is at the Dorigo gig, and when you see that, it's pretty special.
Yeah. That's gorgeous, man.
It is. North Coast Chill is a real surprise packet on Spotify. I know we talked a little off air about that, but tell us a little bit of the story around North Coast Chill.
Yeah, so that was just written as a promotional piece. A friend of mine, they had like a Airbnb type thing over on Australia, and they were doing some sort of ad for it, some sort of video ad, and they wanted some music, and so I just wrote that and gave it to them, and also put it on my album. So and then it's been used for all sorts of different, not none of them are super commercial. A lot of volunteer and a lot of organization, advertisements, like, because it's just there, and it's often will be involved. So my wife, shout out to my wife Jasmine, I haven't really mentioned her yet, but she's been amazing through everything. But she's a graphic designer and lots of things. But she would often be doing a video, and I was like, what song are we going to? It becomes sort of comical. It's like, well, it's green trees, and it's the Northern Rivers Wildlife Hospital as an example. Let's just use North Coast Chill Out, and so we better write something new soon. But that's how that came about. And then it's a nice, I'd like some of those relaxing pieces. I don't listen to it as much now, but I grew up listening to things like America and even John Butler and stuff with that acoustic sort of feel. Yeah.
Excellent. So Braggy mentioned before he stalked you on social media. So where should you send people who want to learn a little bit more about you, Thor?
Well, if you go to thorphillips.com, that's got links to everywhere basically. There, that's the best way to go for the website. Yeah, I'm on Instagram. Yeah.
Excellent. Were you offended when we called you Thor the Viking?
Not at all. I was like, there was something about she's a strapping young version of a Viking. I was like, I'll take that. It's funny with things like that. You look at that photo was nearly 10 years ago. I said I better put some new ones on. It's a bit.
No, you don't have to. You find one you like and you keep to it.
You see it all over LinkedIn, don't you? With professional young men with their profile pics, and then you meet them and they're like 20 years older. So it's such an interesting world. Thor, it's been amazing having a chat with you today. Just the experience, the knowledge, your journey, the Dobro. I had never even heard of the Dobro before I started talking music with these guys. So I love the slide guitar. So it's been awesome chatting with you today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Remember, shout out to the boys if you're on the golden guitar red carpet. We'd love it. So next week, guys, we have got Jacob Jean coming to us. Now he is a reggae, R&B, rock and funk dude coming out of Perth, WA. So let's wind this up. Love what you've heard. You hit follow, share the show, dig deeper. Thor's music will be added to our playlist, Unfiltered, Undiscovered, every damn song. So we've talked about Higher Ground, Vigilante, North Coast Chill, and Jumping in the Pool. So they will all go onto our playlist, available on Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, and Apple Music. More artists, more stories, more reasons to listen. This is Unfiltered and Undiscovered. And we will see you all again next week. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Thor.
Thanks for having me, guys. Lovely chat to you.
Well, that's a wrap for this episode of the Unfiltered and Undiscovered podcast. If you've liked what you've heard, please do us a favor. Hit follow, leave a rating, and share it with a mate who needs some new music and a little bit of laughter in their lives. We're all about discovering the songs that actually mean something. So if you're into raw talent, great stories, and music that hits you right in the guts, you're in the right place, and we'd love to see you back again next week. Don't forget our Spotify playlists. Every damn song, every track we've ever talked about, rising female country artists, and undiscovered covers. And just now, they're not just available on Spotify. You'll also find them on YouTube Music and Apple Music as well. Now, we will be back next week with more music, more stories, and probably some more arguments. But that's what keeps us unfiltered. We'll see you next week.